Welcome to a TVN special report on the conflict in the Middle East. I'm Eric Stakelbeck, and what began just 13 days ago as a coordinated strike on Iran by the United States and Israel has now exploded into the most significant. And folks, the outcome of this war could reshape the balance of power across the Middle East and beyond. It all began, of course, on February 28th when, under the code names Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion, U.S. and Israeli forces launched a devastating decapitation strike in the heart of Tehran. The target, the leadership of the Iranian regime. The result, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei eliminated, along with several of the regime's most powerful military commanders, including the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Iran's chief of staff. Now, from the outset, President Trump has made the mission very clear. Destroy Iran's nuclear program, dismantle its ballistic missile arsenal, and put an end to the regime's ability to terrorize the region and the world through its proxies like Hezbollah. But the Iranian regime is not going quietly. Tehran has launched hundreds of missiles and drones at Israel and at U.S. bases and civilian targets across the region in places like Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. At the same time, Iran has moved to strangle the global economy by attempting to close the Strait of Hormuz, that critical shipping lane where 20% of the world's global energy supplies passes through each day. This desperate play from Iran is designed to drive up oil and gas prices to intolerable levels. Meanwhile, Iran's chief proxy Hezbollah has now entered the war from Lebanon and is trading heavy blows with Israel. But it remains to be seen how much longer Iran and its proxies can withstand the relentless air campaign from the United States and Israel. U.S. officials say more than 6,000 targets inside Iran have been hit since the operation began, and more than 60 Iranian naval vessels have been destroyed. Iran's missile and drone barrages have also decreased dramatically as the U.S. and Israel destroy the regime's launch capabilities. At the same time, Iran's regime has installed a new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the slain Ayatollah. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, meaning Iran's regime is signaling that it has no intention of backing down. But could this war ultimately be the end of Iran's radical regime and usher in a new day for the Iranian people and the world? We'll break it all down with expert analysis straight ahead. Absolutely. Now, the strategic Strait of Hormuz, folks, some 20% of the world's oil supplies go through that waterway off the coast of Iran every single day. And guess what? The regime in a last gasp is trying to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. What does that mean for the world and in particular for America? Joining us now is our good friend, CEO of Martin Capital and the Rod Martin Report, Rod D. Martin. Rod, always great to see you. Hey, is this becoming, in your view, of course, my friend, is this becoming somewhat of an energy war as Iran threatens the Strait of Hormuz, number one? Number two, Israel struck Iranian, or I should say Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps refineries on Saturday. Will energy, oil, and gas prices take more of a role as this conflict continues?
The Iranians would clearly like to make it an energy war. I don't think they're going to be very successful with that. We have seen a couple of bounces up into, three-digit territory on the price of oil. But, the truth of the matter is the Iranian Navy is at the bottom of the sea. And what's left to them are seaborne drones, which are not insignificant. The Ukrainians have used them to great effect against the Russian Navy, no question about that. And the remnant of their missile capacity that we are eradicating at breakneck speed. So their ability to hit anything in the strait is pretty limited before you factor in the U.S. Navy stepping in and actually escorting oil tankers. So I really don't think they're going to be able to get very far with this. Second, the Saudis have made clear that they intend to activate their pipeline that ships oil away from the Ras Tanura port down to the Red Sea. That gets them completely out of Iranian range, and that would be 70% of Saudi production. That's a lot less than the total Gulf production, but it's a big deal. And finally, once this war is over, once we have successfully concluded this, and we will, the truth of the matter is we're going to see a tremendous amount of Iranian oil come online to the global market in much the same way we're seeing the beginnings of that with Venezuela. And ultimately, the price of oil is going to drop dramatically below where it has been. There's always been this risk premium because the Iranians hold the Strait of Hormuz hostage. Donald Trump is not going to let them do that ever again.
Yeah, and history lesson here for everyone, Rod. Back in 1987, the Iranians were threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, and President Reagan sunk, I think, about half of their Navy at that time. Now President Trump has finished the job and sunk essentially their entire Navy, over 60 naval vessels. Hey, we talk about Venezuela and the Iranian regime, weakened, obviously, these two major oil exporters to nations like communist China. Big picture, Rod, and you're so good at this. Okay, the Iranian regime, God willing, will be toppled soon, but at the end of the day, this has to strike a blow as well, this operation, at Iran's allies like communist China, Russia, North Korea. What about China in particular, Rod? How does this hurt them?
Well, what this war, like the 12-day war last year, like the Venezuela intervention earlier this year, what this shows is that China is nobody's ally. China is utterly undependable. They absolutely will not come to your aid no matter how many bold promises they make. And everybody should have taken that lesson when they announced this alliance without limits with Putin the week before he invaded Ukraine. And then, have the Chinese sent a single soldier to Ukraine? No, they have not. Have the Chinese given arms to the Russians to prosecute their war? Oh, goodness, no. Everything that gets sold to Russia is at top dollar, and everything China buys from Russia is at a steep, steep discount. They are draining the Russian treasury dry. They are utterly predatory. They are neocolonial. And the truth is, the whole world is beginning to see it. The other dimension of that, of course, is that it was Chinese and Russian air defense systems that were supposedly going to defend Iran and Venezuela. And in both cases, they utterly failed. Their stuff is junk. And what that does to the Russian and Chinese arms export industries is really, really draconian over time. Probably one of the reasons we just saw the Indians flip to the United States side for the first time in 80 years and start interdicting Russian oil tankers they'd previously been buying oil from.
Yeah, folks, this is why Rod D. Martin is a must follow on X. Head over there right now and follow him. President Trump, and you laid out all the chess pieces, Rod, just now. President Trump is not doing this kind of haphazardly. It seems to me he has a strategy here and a vision. Talk more about that. He is an historic figure, without a doubt. I believe he's the most consequential leader of the 21st century. I think it's pretty clear on the world stage with what he's accomplished, I think in this term alone, but add that with his first term. Talk a bit more about his grand vision and strategy here, the Trump doctrine.
Well, that's clearly true so far. I mean, who knows, what amazing figures we may have in the 2080s, but so far, Donald Trump takes the cake. And in fact, I would say he's one of the three most consequential presidents of the last century, Reagan and Franklin Roosevelt being the other two. And what Trump is doing is very, very Reagan-esque. This gets kind of missed because of his interesting communication style, which he explains in his books. He explained on The Apprentice. He is trying to constantly keep all of his opponents off balance, make himself look unpredictable, constantly keep them in chaos so that he can get to the optimal deal. Well, what is the optimal deal? The biggest geopolitical threat to the United States, no matter how many times Barack Obama wants to pretend that it's Russia, is actually China, a country with 1.4 billion people, a country with a serious nuclear weapons capacity and an enormous economy. Russia has an economy the size of Florida, for goodness sake. They are not going to take over the world, and they can't even march on Kiev, so how are they going to get to Berlin? China is the threat, and every single thing Donald Trump has done, from Venezuela to Cuba to Iran, interdicting these shadow fleet tankers, trying to bring about a peace between Russia and Ukraine, everything that he did in the Middle East to get us to a proper conclusion of the war with Gaza, all of these things point back to China. It's about stripping China of its allies, no matter how much they thought they were real allies. The Chinese clearly didn't. Strip them of their allies, strip them of their source of supply of all of this incredible amount of steeply discounted oil. They're buying about half of their oil for about 1/3 of market price, which is a huge prop to their over-subsidized communist economy. And if Ronald Reagan, channeled through Donald Trump, can contain China, you ultimately get the same result you did in the Cold War, where Russia outspent, outarmed, and outcompeted, eventually imploded under the weight of its own socialist presuppositions. That was the end of the Soviet Union. That will be the end of the Maoist Chinese communist regime.
And just like in Ronald Reagan's day, peace through strength under Donald Trump works. Folks, if you're just joining us, this is a TBN special report, Conflict in the Middle East. We're talking to our good friend, Rod D. Martin. Rod, Reza Pahlavi has been talked about as a potential successor to this wicked regime in Tehran right now. What do you see as the prospects for Iran post, God willing, post-regime?
I'm actually very bullish on it. I've spent the last couple of weeks posting videos of Iranians in Iran cheering for U.S. airstrikes and cheering for Netanyahu, which is just glorious to see. You know, these guys don't want to be the source of every regional conflict. They want to be a first world country. They want to be a democracy. They want to be free, and they want to be friends of the free countries in the world, which is what they were before the 79 revolution. Now, can they rise up and take out the regime? Yes, I think they can. And what happened today was actually quite stunning in that regard. We're getting reports now of targeted drone strikes by the U.S. and Israel against local police and military forces in the streets in Tehran, actually taking out individual traffic stops and individual secret police officers. These guys are the people who are keeping the Iranian population down. They're the people who are killing 36,000 unarmed protesters in 2 days back in January. These are the guys who are the tip of the spear for the mullahs. And if you can take them out by remote control, as Donald Trump is now doing, the people can rise. They absolutely can. As to Reza Pahlavi, I think he's the guy. He's the only name being chanted in the streets of Iran except Bibi Netanyahu and the guy they call Uncle, by which they mean Donald Trump. He is the leader of these people, and I am very happy with that. Nobody knows what the future will be. Who knows? Maybe he's an evil Maoist or something terrible, but I don't think so. He's been in the United States his entire adult life. His kids grew up here. They're all educated here. And this is a guy who has spent the last 40 years promising us that he's going to be the next Juan Carlos I of Spain, who transitioned Spain after the fall of dictator Franco into a democracy.
Rod, great breakdown. We shall see, my friend. History unfolding before our very eyes. And Rod, you've got a front row seat for it. We appreciate your analysis, my friend. God bless. We'll see you again soon. It's been great having you with us tonight. Until next time, God bless you. We'll see you again soon.